Yeah, what's your size?
Ooh, I get along best with individuals that do work out. Will I have trouble picking you up? I'm not attracted to all of you. Unfortunately, the only one I'm attracted to is Vanessa. And it's nature, baby. We're animals.
Look, in my book, based on what we saw, Shake absolutely meets the diagnostic criteria for narcissism. I've spent so much time on this channel talking about the difference between being a jerk and being a narcissist. And I think Shake is such a great example of what true narcissism looks like. This is a guy that has a pervasive pattern of being totally unable to create and maintain relationships. It impacted his relationship with Deepti, his relationship with his friends on the show, or the other guys on the show. I think it even impacts his relationship with his mom and his family. Shake is totally unable to create true connection with others. And he is desperate for attention. I thought his performance or his behavior on the reunion show was really telling. So many times he interrupted the conversation to make it about him, despite the fact that everybody is telling him to shut up, right? Like he just couldn't stop himself because he so desperately wanted more and more TV time. He wanted more and more attention. And to me, those are the two big markers of narcissism. One, this desire to make things all about you. Whether it's overt or covert, there's a desire, there's a focus on what's happening with you. And there's an inability to connect with and understand others, which leads to the total absence of empathy, which to me I think is an important differentiator. Somebody who is selfish understands what others are feeling. They just don't care. They just think they're more important. But a narcissist can't even get there. They don't know that the other person exists. They don't know that the other person really has feelings. So that as a consequence, they can't care about them. And to me, that's what we saw with Shake. So this is the first time I've watched Love is Blind. And I can't tell you how much time and energy I put into while watching the show and even between episodes, thinking about Shake and trying to figure out his behavior. He was such a polarizing and shocking figure. So I have three kind of global thoughts or theories about Shake that I want to walk through. The first is, I think he has some kind of sexual dysfunction. So let me just talk through it, okay? He was so obsessed with it. In the pods, he's talking with everybody. He's constantly talking about, what do you look like? Am I going to be attracted to you? What's this relationship going to mean? He's constantly trying to figure out their weight, their size, right? Can I put you on my shoulders? All of that. And then when he finally proposes to Deepti, he comes, he says, look, I've never dated an Indian woman before. I want to be with you, whatever. He proposes to her. She says yes. And then he sees her for the first time. Remember when they come together and he's been talking about how he's going to grab her ass. He grabs her and kisses her so aggressively, and he's pinching he's pinching her, and it reminded me of like what a when they show dogs, how they're like grabbing the dog and trying to move the dog around and be like, is this adequate for, this is a Highland Terrier and this is what you're supposed to. It felt like he was checking her like she was an animal to say to himself, is this going to get me off?
Holy shit. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Hi.
Oh my God. Oh my God, you're so beautiful. Holy shit.
Hi.
That booty. Look at
And I just had that initial thought of like, everybody else is a little bit timid. Everybody else is a little bit trying to figure out there's a person there that I'm going to date now. What's this connection like? Whereas he was so aggressive off the bat, so sexual. And then he goes to not being interested at all in her. And it just makes me think there's something going on as far as what's required for him to get off sexually. And I don't know if that's due to some kind of sexual trauma, or he's consuming a tremendous amount of pornography, or he's getting it somewhere, or he was during the show getting it somewhere else. I get the idea that he may not have been super attracted to Deepti, or she's not his type, or whatever. But how do you go from being that sexually interested when you're in the pods, so focused on it, to all of a sudden being completely disinterested and labeling her someone that looks like my aunt? It's such a gap that it makes me think that he was worried about his own sexual performance due to some kind of dysfunction. I mean, just think about it this way. They went a month I believe it was a month, they're involved in this experiment. I don't believe that he went a full month without any kind of sexual interaction, right? He was doing something somewhere else other than with Deep D. And it just seems odd that he was, like, to Shane's point on one of the episodes, Shane's like, why don't you just have a couple of shots, make an effort? Like, why would he never do anything with her unless he had some kind of deep shame or embarrassment that was getting in the way of that? That's the first thing. The second thing is, I do think his interactions with Deep D and the approach to that relationship, I think it is due to internalized racism at some level. I know he's come out and said, look, I just have a preference for white women. But to me, it was too much. He was calling, he was so critical of how she looked, calling her, saying she looked like his aunt was so aggressive to me. It's like he's trying to create so much separation. And to me, there's just more to it than just a preference for white women. And I think it's important to understand what internalized racism is. It's not just, I don't like my ethnicity, or I don't want to date someone who looks like me because I don't like Indians in this case. What internalized racism means that you have internalized the hierarchy that has been established by the majority culture. So in this case, Sheikh would have internalized the belief system that there is a hierarchy and that Indians are at the bottom of that hierarchy and white people are at the top of that hierarchy. So for him to engage in a relationship with a Indian woman would mean that he's climbing to the bottom of that hierarchy. And I think that that's why, we have this guy who is deeply insecure, that wants to be the best at everything. He wants all the attention. He wants to be successful, right? He's got to drive the fastest car, have the nicest apartment, have all the attention. I think for him, being with Deep D means climbing down that ladder. And I think that's part of the reason why he was so uninterested in having a relationship with her. And the third thing, which I just have to say, I know it's obvious, but I just have to say it. His reaction at the wedding when Deep D said no was appalling. It was a textbook reaction to a narcissistic injury. He could, compare it to when Shane got dumped, right? Shane reacted normally. He's devastated. He's sad. He can say he's devastated and sad. Versus Sheikh has to immediately say, no problem. I don't care. Let's party. He was so dismissive of the whole thing. It's such an effort on his part to save face. I think that's why he retained that tone, the sort of, I didn't take it seriously, I don't care about all you, you're all playing a game, that really sort of negative, caustic tone at the reunion. I think he's still trying to protect his ego. Please leave your thoughts and comments below. I'm dying to hear what people think. I'm going to do 4 more videos like this about other characters or figures in the show that I thought were particularly interesting. I'll link the playlist here. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe.